Guys.
Hi.
Hi, Zoe.
Yeah, you're so good. You guys are Zoe?
Yes.
I'm Zoe.
Oh, hi, Zoe.
I'm here to talk to you guys today about the Whole30.
Right, thanks for doing that.
Okay, so I want each of you in turn will go like this to start to tell me just your first thoughts about it. Not like how you're doing or anything, just your first thoughts, first impression.
Hungrier more often.
Okay?
Yeah, definitely hungry more often, a little bit more tired, probably because I'm not eating as much.
Overall, going okay.
Definitely just weaker and tired.
Okay, and also, because what day are you on now?
Day 25 or 26.
Wow.
I'm done
You're
on
almost
the
there.
done on the 4th.
Okay, and everyone else is all
We all started on the same day.
Yes,
so-
we are. What are we doing?
10.
12?
12, because we
Yeah, we
started on
do.
the 18th.
okay. So Alex, what has been your biggest challenge?
I think just the inconvenience, really. I like to go out and eat socially and or order in sometimes, and that's basically out of the picture because you can't tell what's in a meal. And as I've learned through this, there's sugar in everything. So that would be one. And then just the increased time that it takes for meal prep and stuff because I'm just feeding myself. So just a lot more time and thought has to go into it. Overall though, like the actual food I'm eating is great. I have no issue eating the food and I like that it's not restrictive, but definitely just more prep.
Mark?
The hardest thing is you just got to be so anal on top of all the ingredients. So it's like normally I am anyway, but there you got to make sure there's not one of those little things that's hidden in there, and you just got to be super careful. The other thing I actually found somewhat challenging is just when there's other snacks around, just catching myself. Like I've actually had anxiety dreams about accidentally eating the wrong food. Just the other night, like I had a dream that I just went and ate some chips. I was like, oh no, I gotta start again. so a little bit of anxiety to go around with it. And I know if I'm dreaming about it, it's real.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little bit different. I used to do diets like this before, but it's not like too crazy. This one's definitely tough because like normally what I would supplement in between, like not being able to eat as much meals or like not being able to eat so many things would be cereal. Like I love cereal, that's my favorite snack. And like I cannot eat cereal at all. There's no such thing as cereal in this world with the Whole30. So here I am just like, I guess almonds and fruit will have to fill that bowl, but even then you can only eat so much of that in a day.
The hunger's a minor inconvenience, like that's just a minor discomfort I don't really care too much about, but yesterday Zoe and I went to our son's lock. He had a birthday celebration at the school, this really nice thing, and they actually made this individual kind of dish and they served it all out, and the dish was like healthy. It was like berries, like you could tell they used like coconut rather than milk, and it was like really well thought out and thoughtful in terms of being healthy. But here Zoe and I are sitting here just feeling like the biggest jerks in the world, not eating it. As like everyone's really thinking, what's wrong with these people? So that was the hardest moment for sure, because it was like socially super awkward, and it felt like it wasn't right either because it actually was a healthy dessert.
Well,
And
we looked at each other and we were like,
do we eat it and reset?
Yeah.
They reset our 30 days right here. I was very close to resetting.
I was very close
Could
to
you
just
not have
eating
just,
it
like,
and not
picked?
let everybody know and just
Yeah, Zoe, I saw nothing. Like, but you do have some very underfaced.
Could you not have like picked at the berries or something?
I moved it around and I tried shoving some into Watt's
Yeah.
plate, but he had enough.
Okay. That's when a dog comes in handy.
But yeah, that's tough.
Okay, and have you had any have you noticed any positive changes?
The only positive change that I've noticed is psychologically, if I think about what I've been eating, it just feels good knowing that I've eaten good food. Like it's not that I'm actually feeling better, but I feel good knowing that I'm eating well.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. It's like you kind of get in that position where you're like, exercising, I'm eating better foods for me, But at the same time, like for me, I've noticed like a change in weight like already. Like I can visibly see that I'm not as heavy as I was before, which is for me not such a hard thing. Like Tyler and I have very similar body types, and you know putting on weight is hard. So for me, not eating like complex carbs like bread and having all these other things like peanut butter and stuff, it's just like, okay, yeah, you're gonna start losing weight really fast. But yeah, I definitely noticed you feel better about like what you're eating, even though you're definitely hungrier than you normally would be.
I'm not like him, Tyler. I do not feel weight melting off. I wish I could say that, but no. Sadly, no. But I would say that you do feel positive about what you're eating. So you do feel kind of, I would just say, more cognizant of the healthy food, and you just overall just feel a bit better about what you're eating. But overall, do I feel more energetic, that kind of thing? I can't say there's been much change in that regard, not at this point.
Yeah, I would kind of have to mirror what these guys are saying. I haven't noticed a ton of difference in, you know, clarity or energy or anything. I think part of it is just because all of us eat kind of Whole30-esque for most of our time. And I would say probably energy-wise, my energy's been lower. I think two things for me, I definitely just feel less voluminous, which to me means that there's something in my diet that's like retaining water. So that will be fun to kind of figure out. And then kind of what these guys were saying about feeling good. So, you know, I am someone who's very guilty of, you know, when I'm doing meal prep, I'll just mindlessly kind of snack on whatever I'm prepping. And now I'll get to the end of the meal prep and I'll be like, oh my God, I just ate so much food and it's not even dinner. And I'm like, oh, it was like peppers and a couple of almonds, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And then I don't feel guilty about kind of what I've ingested as a, you know, mindless snacking or whatever, so.
Okay, have you been surprised? Like, has anything kind of surprised you by your reaction to it, or like whether it's emotional or physical or whatever? Like,
I think I was a bit surprised at how few cravings I had. I feel like I haven't had any cravings actually, which I was so nervous about, just because like my boyfriend's not doing it, so whenever I'm with him, he can eat whatever he wants, and I was like, oh man, it's gonna be so hard to not eat the popcorn he's having or the chips or whatever, but it hasn't been a struggle. The same with sugar, like I'm not someone who craves sugar, but if there's, you know, a dish of chocolates in front of me, I'm definitely gonna take one. So, but I haven't felt tempted, which is really cool, and I think it's really reflective of how quickly the palate resets, right? And I'm really curious going forward when I start to incorporate that stuff at all, how much sweeter sweet things are gonna taste, how much saltier salty things, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that this will be the reset that I'm just like, oh, that's too sugary and I just won't go there.
For me, I guess one of the things that I was surprised is supposed to be good for the stomach. I was expecting, oh yeah, like everything's gonna feel great in the stomach, but I actually found, like in terms of gas and things, it to be a lot worse. So I guess probably more likely just more fruit and substitutions. So something in that regard is definitely doesn't agree with my stomach as well. So that's one change I noticed. Also just kind of the emotional attachment to certain foods. Like when I'm feeling kind of crappy, that's when I feel like things like popcorn. So it's interesting to get that. It's not that it's just, hey, I feel like popcorn. It's I'm being an emotional baby and I want to eat my popcorn. So
my popcorn feelings.
Yeah, exactly. So it is interesting to see that because I wouldn't consider myself an emotional eater, but I clearly am an emotional eater to some degree.
I would remind you, don't eat your emotions.
I don't listen to Zoe, but she's very much. She tends to insult me rather than so yeah, that's probably what I would say I noticed the most.
I would say that I've never had as many dreams about food that I have recently about like I've had so many dreams about eating chips and pizza and ice cream within the past week that I have never in my life had, even as a child. So apparently, subconsciously, I am very aware of cravings. The other day I was sitting there eating a beautiful steak that I had just created, and I was sitting there like, you know what would be really great on this? A bunch of butter. And like, what would be great on the side of this? cheeseburgers. I was like, wait, cheeseburgers? I'm like, I'm having a steak. I'm like, nope, cheeseburgers. That's what's in my mind right now. So yeah, the cravings are definitely there. Surprisingly, I mean, the willpower that you have while you're doing this is very interesting to see. Like, you definitely like catch yourself going, oh, I could eat that, but I'm not going to, because in another 15 days, it's going to be so much sweeter when you can say like, I went through the 30 days and made it through to the other end, and then you can kind of be like, I'm gonna have my treat.
Yeah.
And as well, Alex said, like, I'm hoping that it's gonna be like, I don't like that stuff as much anymore, or that stuff isn't actually what I really craved. It was more so like the convenience of it or something. But yeah, way too many dreams about like sweets and stuff like that recently that I've never in my life.
So I think that's 3 of us. Have you guys had dreams? Because I've had 2.
I had a dream that Tyler accident.
Okay.
It was because I think I was making something and he assumed it would be Whole30 because I was making it, and he had
banana
some.
bread.
And yeah, it was banana bread, that's right. And no, it's not, it's for the kids.
Okay, so that leaves Tyler.
No, I did have a dream about it too. I had a dream that I had peanut butter, which is sort of one of those things that's maybe not that unhealthy, especially when you do the good stuff. And I had a dream about it too. So definitely it is on the mind more than normal.
Yeah.
And it is funny, like like we're all a little bit anal in particular about what we eat, but it's amazing how this brings it up. And I don't like that.
No,
like that's the part I don't like. Like I don't like the intensity of that experience. And that's what I actually look forward to sort of not having, of being like,
Yes.
who cares if a piece of rice falls in on cauliflower rice?
Well,
But I was actually like, had this brief moment of anxiety of how close the rice was cooking to the cauliflower rice. It's like, man, it's not like your mixed servants, like you ruined the whole thing, now I can't have any. And it's like, 1 grain of rice really doesn't matter, but right now it seems like it really does. And I don't like that.
Yeah.
So any changes that you've made that you're going to keep going forward?
Popcorn is amazing. I love popcorn, but I also appreciate that having it every day doesn't allow you to appreciate as much as you should. So I think the treat foods that aren't like terrible for you, I think it is better to keep it a treat and have it less frequently. So I'm definitely going to reflect on some of those things that I was having too frequently and just have them less. And I think it'll actually make me enjoy it more. I think the timing of this was good just because we were opening up a new business and things, so we were looking for like any reason to celebrate. Hey, our first day, hey, our first new SF, and then we just kept doing all these celebratory things, having like, hey, bubbly wine again, sweet. And so the reset was nice because it was like, hey, we don't need to treat ourselves that often, and it makes those treats that much better.
Yeah, I mean, I work at a brewery on my second job, so not drinking, I don't really drink that often anyway, but like, yeah, 100% with Tyler, like, I definitely have come to this, like, not indulging in your, kind of like, your habits of overindulgence, like, if there's chocolate sitting in, like, I live with my parents right now, and, like, Dad's got candies everywhere, and it's just after Christmas, right, we have all these chocolates that people have given us. I fell asleep the other day, and I woke up, and there was a box of chocolate beside my head, and I went back to sleep,
Keep your mouth closed,
thinking about it, and then I woke up thinking I'd eaten the chocolates, and, like, I was on top of that, it's like, I am supposed to know how all the beers are supposed to taste at work, and I'm not allowed to do that right now, so I'm sitting here just like, I can smell it. Yeah, so like, really using my smell over taste.
You could put your hand in there.
Yeah, feel like textural, like really indulging in those other senses is
Visual.
definitely visual, it looks like a beer, it smells like a beer, and I'm not sure how it tastes, but it probably tastes exactly like what you would imagine it would taste like. Like a beer. Yeah.
I guess on this, because other people will do it where they swish and then they spit, right? But I feel like this is so strict that
Yeah, it's almost
No
cheating.
swishing
Right?
allowed.
Yeah.
right?
I caught myself the other day, my
Right.
boss was like, hey, Cam, I need you to taste this to tell the difference between what bad beer tastes like in the wines. And we had an off keg, and I went in there and I was like, oh, and I like grabbed the glass and I was just about to, and I was like, I can't do that. I'm like, okay, will it smell differently? He's like, yeah, it'll smell really weird. I'm like, okay, well, I can smell it. And I smelled it, and I was like, so close to putting the beer into my mouth, and just being like, yeah, that's just a normal thing I do at work, because I need to quality control. And yeah, that's definitely something, I think I'll definitely stop doing as much kind of binge treats and stuff like that. I do that quite a bit beforehand, like lots of kind of treaty treats, just because I can.
You don't need to drink a pint.
No, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Let me have another pint.
You're allowed to, we usually have a beer after work, all of us will have a beer after work and stuff, and it's kind of nice now that I can be like, no, I'll just hang out after work and just chill out and chat with my buddies. I don't feel like I have to have a drink and stuff like that and enjoy it that way. Like it's the social aspects back at it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would kind of follow suit on that too. I just feel like you really get a sense of how easy it is to overindulge in the way we live. Like it's just good food is everywhere, and this Whole30 really makes you like you notice good food is because it's almost become like poison to you now. It's like, oh my god, blah. So you're always watching for it, and so it does kind of bring that out that hey, maybe like you probably do overindulge in those treaty kind of foods, and hopefully going forward just be a bit not as hard as the Whole30, but a little bit harder on myself to be a bit more cognizant of it.
Yeah, pretty similar. Definitely leading up to this, December was a bad month for me, alcohol-wise and food-wise. Christmas time always sucks. And then just the stress of dealing with all this new and change and all that stuff. So as an emotional eater, that definitely hit me hard. So definitely less alcohol in my life. I'd like to keep it to weekends, so kind of same thing, like just, it's a nice thing to have on a Friday evening or something. And then I think one thing that has really popped up to me is, again, I'm like Mark, like I definitely self-soothe with food, and so it is kind of like, I'm feeling crappy, I'm gonna have X, Y, or Z. But what Whole30 has done is, because there's not like that much treaty stuff you can have, the only time I'm really eating is if I'm actually hungry. So I think I'd really like to just take that with it, and before I go for whatever snack, just like stop and think, am I doing this because I'm hungry, or am I doing this because I'm avoiding something, or because I'm bored, or whatever it is, right? Like it really forces you to be more introspective on, okay, why am I putting this food in my body, and is it actually giving me anything in return, essentially. So I think also just having kind of prepped veggies is going to be a go-to, so that if I am feeling snackish or whatever, I'm just going to have like a giant bag of snap peas or something, and then I'll get my snack.
Okay, so then a large part of the Whole30 is not only this phase that we're in right now, but afterwards the reintroduction of different things, I guess mostly probably things that you think might be problematic. Are you going to go through a reintroduction phase, or are you just gonna day 31 just
Scarf!
It's funny, when I started, that's kind of what my plan was just to like have a party and just like eat all the foods.
Drink it all back.
But as I'm going along and realizing like actually how easy it is to eat like this, I don't have that desire anymore. One thing that's kind of a bummer is I think the Oak is going to be opening up on the Friday that I'm done, so I might have like an indulgent meal that day. But I think for me, I'm going to try and hold off on dairy, because I know dairy's a trouble for me. Like that's kind of where my guts get angry with me. But I'm not like a huge grains person, so I don't think that will be an issue. But specifically, like, because I think they talk about like, okay, now I'm adding dairy, now I'm adding grain, now I'm adding legumes, because I haven't noticed that big of a difference in how I feel or anything. A little bit less. See, I have less gas, and I was telling Zoe one weird thing that's happened. Well, weird, but kind of makes sense. My sweat doesn't stink as much, so I don't know if any of you guys have come across that yet, but.
I never stink, so no.
Oh, of course, yeah. He doesn't. Mark doesn't sweat. He glows.
Cool, actually. Might be a vampire.
or
My older brother has it.
Or pregnant, or both.
It's the same thing.
But yeah, so because I haven't noticed a huge change in how I feel, I'm not too concerned about the reintroduction, because I don't feel like I'll be like, yeah, that's the thing. Like I already kind of feel like I know what my body likes and doesn't like, and I feel like I just choose whether I suffer a bit the next day or not, right? So the long and short of it is not as specific as Whole30 wants, but I am going to try and just keep things on the lower spectrum, so dairy and alcohol just lower in my diet going forward.
For myself, I'm probably going to keep grain out of my diet. I know that's a problem food source for myself. Like it's like
Except
very,
for popcorn.
except
Or
for
are you gonna
popcorn.
keep
I'm
popcorn?
still undecided on popcorn.
Oh.
If I do have it, it will be it will be done on a like a rare basis, like on weekends, not
Or
during
date
the
night
week.
vlog.
Yeah, something like special occasions only. But other grains, I don't like this, especially wheat. I'm gonna keep out. I'll bring back rice for sure. It's never been a problem food for me. I like it in certain foods, and again, it's never been a problem as bothering my stomach or anything either. So that's something I can definitely bring back. Milk, likely gonna keep milk for the most part out as well. Largely from an environmental perspective, I'm not a huge fan of it anyway, and it's in terms of my stomach, not a big problem, but it's obviously not amazing either. So I can leave that one.
I think I'll probably try to like wean myself back into it because I do know like I used to do pretty heavy dieting here and there, and like if you throw yourself back into it, you won't really notice what changed. So for me, I'm probably just going to introduce grain back in for the first little bit.
So you can have your cereal.
100%.
But then that's dairy too.
No, because I don't drink milk. So I've actually been off of dairy milk. I do eat cheese, but I do know a lot of people who are even lactose intolerant can still eat yogurts and stuff like that to a degree. So for me, I still only drink almond milk or oat milk, and I try to stick away from almond milk because, again, with the environmental, there's so much water that goes into it. So yeah, for me, it's definitely going to be mainly because I know that I eat cereal on such a regular basis. I would like to see what that might do introducing it back into my life. Like, I'll have cereal probably twice a day. Like, I'll have it, well, that depends, right? Like, I do eat pretty healthy cereals. Like, I'll eat like Just Right or
Lucky Charms.
yeah, of course,
So
Lucky
it's not
Charms.
tricks.
No, it's not Tricks. No,
Okay.
yeah,
Alright,
I can't get Tricks here. I can get it from
Is that what
Vancouver.
stopped you from
Yeah.
eating?
Yeah, probably. But mainly like, Vector, pretty high protein cereals. I try to, for breakfast especially, I try to have like a high protein breakfast, oatmeals and stuff like that. So just trying to introduce those back into my diet and see how that works, because I've never actually taken grain fully out of my diet, especially since with that background of Chinese, we eat a lot of rice and noodles, and like that's you can't really take that out of the diet too much when you're in an Asian family. So this is the first time I've ever not had grain for this long of a time. So I'm very interested to see, especially introducing it back first, to see what it's going to be. So yeah.
Since sorry to cut in here, but since you live with your parents and you're not eating the rice and grain, how have they reacted?
Oh, my dad just likes making fun of me. Yeah, he's like, oh, you want some pizza? Oh wait, you can't have it. Guess more for me. I'm like, yeah, that's great, Dad. I'm making myself a steak for the third time this week. So, I mean, it's a bit of a give and take. I mean, I'm making lots of potatoes. I'm definitely learning how to make steak really well right now. So that's an up. But definitely like, it'd be nice to be able to have like noodles again, and like my dad makes really good chow mein, so it'd be nice to be able to eat that.
I'm only 12 days in, so I can't make huge judgments on what I'm going to introduce, because I know it's, even in the past few days we've kind of been talking about it a little bit, and potentially like, oh, yeah, I would like to have popcorn a little bit, and that started like, oh yeah, I'm totally fine without any popcorn. And so I think it'll change from now till then. I don't think that my stomach has any actual issues with any of the food that I was consuming, so it's not that I need to not have grain because it's bad for me, or not have popcorn because it's bad for me, or things like that. So I think, like Mark was saying, the grain can be problematic just because it's so easy to have a healthy meal, like chicken soup, homemade with like buns, and it's like, you have to say 400 calories worth of this nice, hearty, good soup, and then you're like,
Bun.
Like it's
1,000 calories.
well, it's easy to have as many calories just in the buns
Put a
versus
slice
the
of
soup.
cheese on there,
A little bit of butter.
And I would never look back at a meal where I had like 5 buns with my soup and be like, those 5 buns really contributed
Yeah.
nutritionally. They don't. Like, I'd rather have like nuts or something later in the evening to contribute to the calories. So I think, as you guys are saying, just less of that stuff. I don't think I'll be that strict in terms of cutting things out. Milk, as you know, I already wasn't having, so that's what we do.
I know I'm not a part of this, like
You
are a
no,
part
no,
of
no,
this.
but I mean,
You're
you're
the
not
leader.
asking me questions right now, but I just want to throw in one of the things I like about it is the kids are eating a lot healthier.
That's nice.
Way less grains for them, because Locke was right away, he was like, what's Whole30? He's like, I'm doing it too, but for him, the Whole30 means no bagels, no cheese, Like he kind of decided what he was cutting out,
Oh, okay, well, that's
and
pretty nice.
and it's
It was cool. Like,
and he
just
told me, he's like, I don't even like cheese. Like, which, and he was eating a fair amount of cheese before, so he just didn't even realize he didn't like it, you know? So that's,
Well, yeah, and this last week, like, he's basically been having like a Whole30 lunch. Like, I've been peeling him a hard-boiled egg, having vegetables, and then like a cut-up apple, and then just like seeds in his little Tupperware, and he's like been actually eating it and liking it. So it's not that he's like, well, I want this stuff.
and he comes home and he wants a snack plate that I make for him that has like vegetables and fruit, and then the one thing I put on there that's not is fishy crackers.
Oh
He
yeah,
loves
I
his fishy crackers.
can't blame him for
But
That's what Alex is gonna
That's the
introduce.
first thing I'm gonna eat on Friday morning.
Fishy crackers.
Yeah, with some orange juice and milk mixed
Yeah,
together.
yeah, that's what they call a morgue, you know? Morgue.
okay, so closing thoughts. We will start with Cam, because we have to start.
Okay. I think it's really interesting to see like the differences between like all of us, but also the similarities. Like we all obviously have cravings, and we kind of notice that. And I think it's very kind of fortuitous to see like we all kind of noticed that almost within the first couple weeks. Like it's not even been 2 weeks yet, and we have already noticed like yeah, we really like those foods, and but at the same time like we noticed that we can go without them. So like seeing that as a team as well, that we can actually like pull through and not have to just be like, oh, you know, I could like just have a piece of toast and like nobody would know. I could have a little bit of butter on this and nobody would know. But you know, you're sticking to it and actually like really following through with a goal, which is I think something to say for a lot of people don't really. They take that kind of stuff for granted, where they're like they'll set a goal and maybe they'll meet it halfway and they feel like that's enough. But I feel like as a team here, we're definitely putting through to that very hard. As much as it's tricky and difficult, but I think we're all kind of pulling through together and making it a little bit more bearable as a team here in the Titan project. Yeah.
Sort of the same on Cam. I think it's pretty cool how we're all doing it as a team. So I think that's pretty fun and unique, and I think that also helps make it easier. To be a lot harder if you were doing it as an individual just by yourself. So having a team always makes things more fun. The one thing I do wish we had is if we had someone that really ate like crap and then switched to this, because one of the unfortunate things about our experiment is that as a population, we're pretty healthy eaters anyway, so it's not quite the same. I would have loved to have someone that maybe, like say your dad or my dad, go on this and see their struggles.
There's no way your
But
dad would be able to
I
make
know,
it.
there's no way. But I would have loved to see that. Like that would have been really fun to really have that challenge or see their struggles and maybe see the benefits they would get. So that's the one disappointing thing. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with us doing this as a team. It's been pretty fun so far. Yeah.
I think as far as people watching this and thinking maybe do they want to do this or not, I feel like we've been kind of whiny, but that's part of this. For me,
we're all whiners.
We're all big whiners. And, we're exhausted from Whole30, so. I look like Christian Bale in The Machinist. But I think really, like if you're kind of on the verge, maybe you're not where you would want to be diet-wise, I actually think this is a really nice one because it's not calorie restrictive. So if you are more just concerned about getting more veggies or fruit or getting more processed sugars out of your diet or whatever, maybe it is even just you've got bad guts and you want to figure out what's bugging you, I think beyond having to be hyper-aware of labels and spending a bit more time on food prep, I think this is actually like a pretty doable diet, and you don't even have to do the whole, like, you wouldn't technically even have to do the Whole30. You could even start with like 1 day a week or something like that. I think it's a really nice kind of approach to changing the way you eat and changing the way you think about food, because I have done a couple of different diets over the time, and I think why this one actually feels pretty doable is because I don't feel like I'm restricted in many ways. Yeah, I'm not depriving myself, you can get all those healthy fats, you can get this sugar from fruit and stuff. So I definitely think like if you're kind of on the edge of maybe trying it, I think it's a really good one. I will say as a caveat, like socially, like Tyler was saying, like Cam was saying, it does make it harder. Like I think if this was any other year, like if COVID wasn't happening, I don't know if I could have done it, because it's just like I basically haven't gone to my aunt and uncle's. They're in my bubble. I haven't gone to my aunt and uncle's because all they have is like snacks and stuff are like chips or crackers and cheese, right? So it's like there's that part of kind of like not wanting to be rude or awkward, so you just remove yourself, you know.
Save face, don't be there.
So that definitely, that was a huge piece for me. Or like, I can't do dinners at like Barb's house anymore because like it just isn't Whole30 friendly, right? So I basically bring my meals wherever I go.
I think it would be interesting for you to do in normal social circumstances to experience how actually easy it is to not even say like, oh no, I can't eat that right now, but find the things that you can eat, just eat those, and people don't even notice.
We're a pretty big foodie family.
I just think it would be interesting for you to try in the future.
Okay.
In the future,
So
when you
if
can.
they lay down a plate of cheese and crackers and sausage,
You just say, I'm good right now, or just eat the sausage.
They know Alex is never good right now. It's like, are you sick? Are you pregnant?
yeah, that's like the no booze. It's like, well, you must be pregnant because
That's the only explanation.
So yeah, I would say that, and you're right. But I also, because it was only 30 days, I think it was just easier to do that. You're right. If this was like a full year or whatever, I would have to learn how to be in social situations and eat what I need to eat. So, but yeah, that was definitely a bit of a struggle.
Can I add one thing?
No.
I guess you're turned over.
I know.
I hate so much.
Oh, okay.
But you go ahead.
Oh,
Talking
thanks,
stick
Alex.
goes to Mark.
So yeah, I just wanted to say about the labels part, like even though we kind of whined a bit about it, I actually think that's probably for someone that has not done this before the most useful thing.
Yeah.
It teaches you to read the labels well, because
Yeah.
if I were to change people's health the most when it comes to nutrition, I think understanding labels and reading labels would change people's health the most.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do this thing and literally just learn to read labels, I think that would improve your health considerably. So even though it's annoying, that annoyance is what makes it good.
Okay, so on that, what do you mean by reading labels? I know the name of everything. I read all the labels that say this is. What do you mean read the labels?
The actual ingredient list.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
mean read the ingredient
Yeah.
list. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it was funny because even yesterday we needed olive oil because we normally don't just use olive oil. Like we use canola oil, and canola oil is one of the kind of the gray ones. If you can avoid it, you should.
Yeah.
And we're in Walmart, and I know not the healthiest place in the planet.
Wait,
but
the commercials say health focused.
So we're in Walmart looking at the different oils. They have like 5 different olive oils, and it's like 4 of them are canola infused.
Oh goodness.
But like you wouldn't even know it if you're just grabbing it.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy that even the ones that seem obvious are people that buy table salt. The majority have sugar added to them,
Yeah.
which is just unreal because people are thinking like
Glad
salt.
I'm a sea salt person.
So one
And
caveat.
even the sea salt ones had added
But
ingredients.
the caveat with the salt, the reason why
Buy
they
from
add
Costco.
sugar is because of the ionization. They have to add sugar to do it. So it's also kind of a moot point.
Okay.
So it's not that they're just trying to make it tastier, it's actually
Okay.
to basically buy them.
Yeah.
So closing comments from me, I think you're kind of touching on what Alex was saying. I think this diet works great because it is essentially following the SMART goals concept of like, hey, you take some measurements, which is like your objective measure, and then you have 30 days defined period, very specific of what you can and can't do. You have your end period, and then you remeasure, reassess, and go from there. So you essentially are achieving stuff.
Probably.
I kind of like the idea of having a random leaf
Leaf
blower
blower
come into
blower?
our video, so I think that's okay to continue. Please continue.
All right.
They call it comic relief, I believe.
Oh, he's coming back. He's a
Just
tease.
speak loudly.
He's a blow
I
tease.
usually do it.
Oh yeah.
Just so we pause.
So yeah, I think it's sort of the start and definitive end, so it doesn't feel like I'm doing this forever, and it doesn't feel then sort of impossible, even if it feels very hard short term. I think Alex has a good point, the social challenges are probably the toughest. I think that's also where the greatest opportunity lies to build up your willpower and to be comfortable in those social contexts, like with your family being like, hey, you know what, I'm eating this way. If you're not comfortable with what you're doing and sort of what your goals are in life in general, you're not going to have much success. Like if you're embarrassed about what you're doing, I think coming out and saying exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's surprising sometimes how people are actually pretty good. And the people that legitimately aren't very good, we should maybe think about it, how much are they actually supporting you as a person, right? Like we should be looking at people around us that support each other, and Cam spoke to how we're all sort of helping each other through it, and we're kind of having a shared experience that in a lot of ways is more pleasant, right? Because we're like, hey, like, how are you doing on Whole30? It's like, oh, I'm missing my cereal. Yeah! I'm tired today, but it's funny and we enjoy it, and it actually adds to it. It makes it fun. And so trying to get people in your life to support you in your challenges, I think, is a huge part of it. And I think a huge reason a lot of people do really challenge with things like eating well and having a nutritious, healthy, sustainable diet.
Good. Well done.
Thanks, team.
Well done.
Yeah, thanks,
That's our
guys.
Fireside Chat number 2. Well, kind of 2.5 was our first, true second got destroyed by my camera.
Yeah.
That's you, camera.
All right, thanks for listening in, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.